Todd Richards here, Roots, Hearts,
and Soul.
Stefan and I are launching this podcast based off cookbook Roots, Heart, and Soul by myself, Todd Richards, with a great help from Chef Stefan, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Oh, you stop, you. We have such a beautiful history together.
I mean, it's crazy. Really, what people are going to get from this podcast is telling the story of Afro people, Afro cuisine.
We're going to be telling the story of the Pan-African diaspora.
Roots, heart, soul of the world, as we say. We are launching in a couple of weeks here, some terrific guests. Stay tuned. Follow us on all our social media at Chef Todd Richards in all formats. Chef Stefan, what's yours?
ChefStefan.it, AYITI. This is the correct way to say Haiti.
Well, we're getting education already.
So if you want to find out more, if you want to listen to great stories being told by amazing, amazing culinary talents, we're going to be hearing stories from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to the Americas. It's going to be something special.
Giving everyone the good rhythm, the good vibes.
Yeah, baby.
We look forward to seeing everyone. Talk soon.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Westholme is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westholme.com.
I'm Allison Kane, and welcome to In the Sauce, a podcast about building consumer brands from the ground up. I love doing this show because I get to interview everyone from production gurus to marketing and social media mavens, anyone who can guide me on this crazy journey. This is the story of building Haven's Kitchen sauces, but it's also the story of every growing brand because we're all in the sauce. Today, I'm speaking with Amrit Richmond, another second timer. I think my third second timer, which is a big deal. Amrit is a CPG strategist best known for the content and community she's worked to build since 2017, Indie CPG. And through her consulting under Supermercado, Amrit helps clients build, invest in, and partner with other brands. There's so much that she does. There's so much that you do. We're all so grateful for the support that you give this community. You're like our best cheerleader. And we want to get right into talking about partnerships and all of the different ways that they can be helpful to us, especially right now. So without further ado, hi, Amrit.
Hi, Allison.
I'm so happy you're here. I feel like we should just record every conversation we have because you're one of those people that I feel like I want to take notes every time we talk, but that would be inappropriate. So at least if I was recording it, I could go back and revisit and then share it with everyone I know. So I'm thrilled. How are you doing?
Likewise, I'm good. I just got back from New York in the Fancy Food Show and was lucky to grab coffee with you as well, where we started to take notes for this partnership.
Right.
And you were talking to me about the new aiolis that we had a chance to work on together. And thinking about other brands that play well with aiolis that just want to fill out the basket online or offline. And that got us thinking, what other kind of fun partnerships can people do that don't necessarily involve two products coming together, but could just be sharing channels, sending care packages to creators together or to smaller retailers, just, sharing the time and cost of getting the word out. There's such a big spectrum of what a partnership can mean. And I think the biggest mistake brands are making right now is that they're too precious with it. They're thinking 6-9 months out with everything that they do, which is important on the product and R&D side. But the best partnership you do could happen in a couple weeks and doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah. No, I'm happy we're talking about it. But I actually want to go back, and I didn't even write this in my draft, but, I do want to call it out because the work that you helped us with for the aioli, I think is really important to share with emerging brands. So essentially what we gave to you was, we know we want to make these dipping sauces. I'm not even sure we had totally settled on like calling them an aioli yet. We had a general idea of the flavor profiles we wanted to do. And we kind of handed you this idea with some mini ideas. And then you came back to us with a really robust document, which was incredibly helpful as we then sort of proceeded. Can you talk about, from your side of that discussion, what that was like and what you felt the expectation was from us and what you wanted to deliver, which you did?
Thank you. So we looked wide at different flavored mayos and sauces and kind of things in bottles that you would want to put on everything, but you wanted more adult or sophisticated flavors that ideally through new products that you create, you're making them more approachable. But something like yuzu citrus that we saw in so many other products over the last few years that could kind of live in this aioli blank canvas. So we looked broadly at the condiment market in large and small retailers. And I think looking at larger retailers when you're doing product research is so underrated for understanding, is this a flavor or type of product that middle America wants? Price aside, like, do people know what these specialty flavors are? If they've been able to stay on the shelf at the biggest retailers, then they do. That means they're continuing to buy it. Otherwise, it wouldn't stay on the shelf. So we looked at some obvious cues and some not so obvious ones to see, where does this product fit? Does it already exist, and in what capacity? And how is your future product going to essentially compete with it, but also sit alongside of it and ideally grow the category with these other indie brands? And through the research that I do for clients like that, we also uncover a lot of partnership opportunities, because you and I have been saying for years that condiments are the new skincare, and a girl can't have just two. I did inventory recently of all the brands in my kitchen and pantry. It's over 200. I know, I'm crazy. And I have 50 different condiments and sauces and spices. And I know that's not normal. So I'm guessing some people have like 5 or 10 that they rotate, that they kind of have this daily relationship with. And ideally your aiolis are one of those that they can put on everything, but there might also be a chili crisp. There might be a
hot sauce.
A hot sauce, something they sprinkle on avocado toast or a grain bowl, whatever. And sometimes these things play well together. So if you're in the condiment aisle, you're in the frozen aisle, or even the snack aisle, people might want to combine your products or just rotate them. But you have to understand where your product fits.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of springing this on you because I didn't even know that we were going to talk about it, but it's actually really good to talk about because you helped us a lot at the beginning, and it helped us just like organize our thoughts when it came to all of this, and so this is really helpful. Keep going.
I pulled up the deck right now just to make sure we're on the same page. We also looked at different pricing and how the pricing changes at different retailers, different form factors and in packaging materials, and what the larger set looks like. So in a store where there's an entire half aisle to condiments, you have a much better chance of getting a new product on the shelf there versus somebody that just has an end cap like space for your product.
Right.
Or you're the underdog afterthought for that retailer as a category. So it's not just the size of the aisle, it's the slice of the aisle that matters most to your
Makes
product.
so much sense. Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into sort of like why we decided we wanted to spend this hour talking about partnerships. And, as I am wont to do, I'm going to be a little reductive. I think, we all sort of agree we're kind of in a storm right now. It doesn't seem like it's going to clear up anytime soon. You have all of this political uncertainty, consumer uncertainty, high interest rates, just everything just seems a little bit more challenging than it used to in our industry, which isn't to be depressing. It's just to call, I think it is what it is. And it seems like they're sort of the brands that are rising above the tide seem to have one of these three sort of strengths, like this unfair advantage of either incredible margin, a lot of cash, or like killer awareness, whether that's like a celebrity brand or, a second time founder. And sometimes you have more than one. Sometimes obviously you hit the trifecta and you have all three, but a lot of us don't have any of those three. We're still kind of waiting for scale to get us the margin. We need the sales.
Partnerships can definitely help solve the awareness piece. You can pay all day for PR and press, but if people aren't buying it, if they're not interested in it, it won't matter. And imagine two brands, they each have a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram or TikTok, and they launch a product together. It's an exclusive in their email for the first couple of weeks. And then it goes into retail, and they build up all this hype around it using their own channels, instead of buying an ad in hopes that someone's going to see it and kind of convert. They know going in, people are going to see this.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's why it's so, and I think, one of the other things you and I talked about that day. So, I think Haven's Kitchen in general, like for better, for worse, we love partnerships. We like partnering with brands that are smaller than us. We obviously enjoy partnering with brands that are bigger than us. And, one thing that you and I talked about is we, because of our supply chain, are not able to do collab products, at least not right now, and not without a lot of time and money. So all of them have been, either content with them, fair exclusive emails, but co-branded demos, that type of thing, just introducing our loyal consumers to theirs. So why don't you just, because you're looking at this in a different way than I am, just if you can just kind of give an overview, I guess, of like the way that you define partnership. Because I think people will be surprised at how many different ways there are to partner.
Yeah, I would say, but before we talk about types of partnerships, I want to say that the alignment is the most important thing, not the budget or how many followers the other brand has. Like, is this something your audiences are going to eat up? Is this going to give you an unfair advantage? Is it going to be worth your time at the very least? Versus is it going to strain you? Is it going to deplete your budget? Is it going to distract your team, be a waste of money, things like that? So have a kind of your own rules of engagement for why you would say yes or no to partnerships before you even think about which ones are a good fit for your brand.
And can I just add that it doesn't have to be brands that have more followers or more distribution, that some of them just have a completely nice little niche that those people are super loyal. And if you get some of those folks to come over to you, and likewise, it can be really beneficial to both. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes. So types of partnerships that all of you have probably thought about. There's specific social channels, email, retail. So when I say retail, I mean a limited edition flavor that's only available at a certain retailer. And it doesn't mean you partnered with the retailer on it, like it's co-branded Whole Foods or Erewhon, but that they get the exclusive for 6 months, which helps de-risk your sales for it. You can host your own events. You can be featured at other people's events or music festivals. You can do an insert in e-commerce orders. I love to see the digital version of that, where you buy a product and then you get a follow-up email from the founder of that brand saying, hey, here are some other products that I just love. These are my founder friends, or these are products that play well with mine. Here's a 20% off 2 other products that I absolutely love with the product that you just bought. Very different than upselling that customer on 3 other products on your website. But you can bundle those products and still keep them coming back to your website. But I'm talking about featuring other brands products. And it doesn't have to be in a bundle. It doesn't have to strain your supply chain. It's just, here's 10, 20% off. I think you're going to love it. And then there's lots of different styles of partnerships. So it could be a flavor collaboration. It could be a licensing partnership where it's the same exact product you've been selling for months or years. It's just a different label. So could be with a movie. It could be with a celebrity. Also could be with another brand. If you have an extra run of a product or excess inventory, you can take it out of the package, put it in new collaborative packaging, make it a limited edition. You could even charge more for it if it's special in some way. And you took that thing you were going to have to write off into something that at the very least gets you PR. And you don't lose money on it in that case. So as you were saying earlier, there's a lot of cross-promotion opportunities in creating content together. For anyone listening, if you haven't looked at Haven's Kitchen YouTube library, it's super impressive. And it allows your brand to be found through SEO, and different than SEO driving people to your website, but just staying top of mind with other things that people are searching for on those channels. So we were talking about flavor partnerships. There's more specific than a flavor partnership. If your product is an ingredient like Oishi strawberries or Yes apples, Brightland olive oil, you can be the de facto ingredient for your partnership. And when people see that, they're familiar with at least one of your products, they're going to instantly trust it because they know what it tastes like.
Awesome.
But I also think it's great when you do unexpected partnerships that may not even be edible. Like the Liquid Death Martha Stewart candle. None of us saw that coming, but it was awesome.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Talia Beer did a Fishwife collaboration. Heinz recently had a purse line with Kate Spade. Curious what you think about that.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting one, because I think that Heinz has done an amazing job with relevancy lately. They have really just tapped into what consumers want lately. And I think, with all due respect to Kate Spade, they have been challenged with relevancy. So I understand I guess I understand the strategy for Kate Spade. It's a little Anya Hindmarchy. It makes sense. People want to wear their condiments. I think it proves our sort of condiment economy thesis, which we should write a paper on, and someone will never publish, but we'll feel good about it. I didn't know what it did for Heinz.
That's fair. And that's something to consider when you're doing these partnerships. If you're the big or small brand, or it's just two small brands, are you getting anything out of it besides just the headline? We've seen a couple other fun fashion partnerships, like Rachel Antonoff and Little Spoon. They made this tiny pasta puffer, and I've never wanted a kid more in my life.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, so, all right, we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of these, because obviously sales are not the ultimate goal, at least not all the time. So we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Whether you're a chef or just love going to restaurants, you know the best ingredients are everything, especially when it comes to beef. In Northern Australia, there's a different approach to raising high-quality beef. Westholme, based in Queensland and Northern Territory, is working with the land to create nature-led Australian Wagyu. Westholme stewards 16 million acres of rangeland guided by their natural ecosystem. They're led by a belief that if they balance the needs of their cattle with the needs of the environment, both can thrive. Westholme's team of rangeland experts and nature managers use a variety of tools to monitor and respond to the welfare of the environment, like satellites that assess grass health and on-the-ground research. Cattle are happier when they have the freedom to forage and explore, so Westholme ensures that they can roam wild, foraging at will for the first 2 to 3 years of their lives. Their cows graze on native grasses like Mitchell grass, which is only found in Australia, along with dozens of other plants, herbs, and seasonal legumes. The result is a high-quality Wagyu beef that reflects the terroir of Northern Australia and a flavor suited to complement any cuisine. West Home believes that when nature leads, flavor follows. Learn more at westhome.com.
I'm back with Amrit Richmond from Indie CPG and Supermercado. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about, I do want to get back into sort of like the straight up content, flavor, emailing, sharing our lists. Fair, I think, is a big one that people don't talk about a lot. But just because we were talking about sort of like the merch aspect, obviously Kraft and Kate Spade is on a different level than Little Spoon and Rachel Antonoff. But tell me, what do you think? Is this just an awareness play? Is it just, again, we have like-minded audiences, they're similar sort of psychographics, they're looking for similar things, let's introduce them to each other?
When it comes to the merch or apparel?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I think people follow these consumer brands almost like a band or a celebrity, especially if they're founder led, like your brand. And so wearing it just gives them another extension to kind of fall in love with the brand or stay close to you in between purchases. And a lot of these are really well designed. They're not just another sweatshirt you would get for spending $100 on the site. So like the Rachel Antonoff one, it was quirky, it was cute and fun, and ideally Rachel's audience gets introduced to the baby food, and vice versa. There was another recent one, True Fruit Desserts collaborated on a swimwear line with Lime Ricky that just has little fruits on it. It's not their logo. It's not like anything, tacky. It's just cute. It's a summer collab that's family friendly, and it's not a walking billboard for the brand. I think merch can come in a lot of forms. Bora Bora has a bandana that I think you get on the third or fourth order, and I think that's a lot cooler than just another shirt or something that people might only wear to sleep. You want people to wear your merch out like it's a designer handbag, because then it is a billboard for you if it has a logo on it. If it doesn't, it still could be a conversation starter.
Right. Yeah. Our aioli hat, it's not a collab, but Maddie designed this like cap that just says aioli really big on the front and a little Haven's Kitchen on the back. And it's almost taken on, like, the word aioli has almost, again, it's on a smaller scale, but that in of itself is bringing attention to us, even if it's not necessarily like Haven's Kitchen on the front. So I see. Yeah.
I do wear that hat that you gave me, and it is a conversation starter.
Yeah, it's a good one. She like, that was her swan song. Okay, I want to get back to, so to me, sort of like the Daddy Mac of this whole flavor collab thing is Coconut Cult. I mean, they have their own, production. They have an incredible way of finding celebrities, designing sort of a run of a SKU of a flavor, that they make themselves. It's not necessarily the flavor that goes into retailers, because that's hard for them, but it brings a ton of awareness to Coconut Cult in general. They are not necessarily paying anybody for any of this, but it makes the celebrities and the influencers feel really good that they have their own yogurt flavor. They do sort of all the marketing for it. I think that really works when you make your own product and when you have a short sort of R&D to production timeline. Is there anyone else kind of able or doing that you're seeing that's just a good place for us to look and understand that? Yeah.
And I agree about Coconut Cult. All of their releases feel really close to home. Like when the founder talks about them on Instagram, he does a video talking about the flavor, and it just feels very small batch and personal. I love the collaborations that Aura Bora does. They recently did one with PF Candle Co., a watermelon chili that we had at an event in New York. And it came with a candle. I think they got some comments that their flavors sounded like candles. And they're like, oh, really? We're going to make a candle flavor then.
Awesome.
And that's another example of something that's just quirky and fun. And it's not so serious. And of course, there's not candle essential oils in it. It's just something that they took the essence from the seltzer, and the candle smells similar to it. So totally safe.
Right.
Oat House granola butter. Allie has been the queen of partnership for years, and she spins them out almost as fast as Aura Bora does. She did a recent cherry pie flavor with a creator that I had at Fancy Food Show, and it was so good. And launching your new flavors as partnerships is so smart. She doesn't always do that, but when she does, she's getting that baked in audience from somebody else. Right. She can build hype around it, and just having support outside of your team to do those things is huge. I think with some of the creator partnerships, there might be an affiliate model or paying them up front. It depends what your situation is. The creator or celebrity might be an investor in your brand, and as long as you disclose that, I think it's fine to do a product partnership with them or create content with them. I just think people should know. Right. And then Van Leeuwen Ice Cream has also done amazing unexpected partnerships. Fly by Jing as well. I feel like,
yeah, she does a lot of good stuff. Yep.
Jing has the most versatile partnership portfolio I've ever seen, from fast food to merch to I call it inedible objects, things for the home. And she did a chocolate cake kit with the caker, just getting her flavors in lots of other products. She's done snack partnerships too. And you can platform through partnerships where it's most likely going to be a limited edition product, but you can kind of test the waters if you are super open-minded, but again, still thoughtful, not partnering with everybody. But if an interesting partnership comes your way and you're like, oh, I've actually been thinking about platforming into that aisle. Maybe you're in the condiment aisle and you've been wanting to work with frozen food brands to be the sauce in there. Putting a tiny packet of it, that could have been the overrun of extra product you had. And you put in these tiny little packets that are unbranded, but you have a logo on the front of the box with this other frozen food brand that's already on shelf, versus you trying to distribute yourself into that other aisle would cost a fortune. Do it with someone who's already there.
Yep. No, and so I want to sort of segue a little bit, because this is, I can hear the people on the other end listening being like, well, we can't do that. And we, our co-packer, yada, yada. So there is always the product partnerships. They are fascinating. They're really fun. I enjoy seeing what these brands do with the different folks that they do it with. I think that there's sort of that's like the heaviest in a way, because it's actual product. And then we start getting into lighter weight, things. And that can be anything from splitting the cost of demos. Again, as a condiment, we are better off when we're on something. We're going to be putting it on something anyway, because having it on a little spoon doesn't necessarily sell the vision when we're doing demos. So why not split the cost of demos at Whole Foods with a like-minded brand that we will go with, and maybe just, again, not only are we splitting the cost, but we're providing something even incremental to that consumer walking through the store, which is a meal solution, an idea for dinner, an idea for when they're at home or they need to pack lunch or whatever it is. Are there any other, that comes to mind just because we're in it right now and we're doing demos, but are there other sort of IRL, you're not necessarily collaborating on an actual product, but you're both taking your product and you're putting them together in a way that gives people inspiration and ideas. And yes, of course, exposes them to both brands.
I love the collaborative grocery demos. I think ideally both of your brands are sold in the store. I don't always see that. Sometimes it's a dip and some random cracker from a big box store.
Right.
And that's great because it's going to be affordable for you to scale those demos, but you're missing out on the opportunity to fill out someone's basket and kind of bond with your brand. So if people don't know how to use your product, it sounds silly. Like if they don't know what to do with it, they're not going to buy it a second time, even if they liked it at the demo. So even having like an 8.5 by 11 card under plexiglass, one of those picture frames on your demo saying, here's 5 ways you can use our brand, and here's 3 other products that you can buy in this store. That could be sharing the space for demos. I don't know if this is allowed, but if you even had coupons for some of those products on your display table,
totally.
And the brands maybe I'm sure they would give you the coupons. We all have extra coupons, but maybe it's you give these other brands some of your coupons and they pay for 10% of the space. I don't know. Just that helps them. That helps you. Or if they can help, there's the cost of the demo table, but then there's also the cost of the talent and your samples. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yep. Any way that we can split that.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's people listening and being like, why would I share my moat with other brands? And if you're in a position where you don't have to partner with anyone else to scale your brand, I congratulate you, but you're missing out on friendships and allies and just commiserating behind the scenes about problems that you think you only have. I promise you, you're not the only brand that's staying up at night about these things. Beyond partnerships. So you do this collaboration with another brand, but now you have a friend you can text. Now you can get feedback. And that's a form of partnership too, right? Relying on somebody.
For sure. No. And I mean, I think again, there's sort of the actual like friendship brand piece, but there's also, one thing that I keep hearing, whether it's like our Amazon agency or, retailers or just, in the zeitgeist is like, look, kind of like I said at the beginning, brands are good at looking inward. We have to be. We have to tell ourselves that what we are making is indispensable, is totally unique, is going to change the world. It's otherwise too exhausting, honestly. So we're good at sort of like shoring ourselves up. But what we're not always good at is looking around and saying, okay, but let's take the person at home right now who now all of a sudden, instead of just like dealing with dinner, is now dealing with multiple meals from home, isn't sure what's going to happen in the world. Like there's existential, just sort of like chaos going on. Everything feels more expensive. They don't even know what is good to eat. I mean, we've always had mixed messages when it comes to grains and nuts and seed oils and soy and meatless things and veggies and water and, who the hell knows, right? Like there's chaos. And if we can, just by saying like, hey, we're working together here, this goes well together. This will save you having to think for an extra 4 seconds about what to make for lunch. You're also building that relationship, not just through your product, but through sort of like your ideas and giving these people something to thank you for. They are not brand loyal right now. Everyone has to understand. I get the fact that there are, like you were talking about, consumers that like follow brands and follow founders. But right now, the consumer is thinking about themselves, what's going to work for them and their family. They are looking for a good experience. They're looking for a good value. They're not necessarily going to stick with a brand because they think it's really cool. And we have to get out of the mindset of, the last 6 years and into the mindset of like, what are the additional things I can do to cut my costs and support my bandwidth, but also to really help the consumer feel better about spending that extra dollar or two on my product, because they don't naturally,
And the more multi-purpose your product is, or if it can be used at every time of the day. I remember that was something that you and I were exploring with your new aioli line. You wanted a product that people could put on
day parts,
everything anytime of the day.
That was the rule of retail. It was the rule of like brick and mortar. You were paying rent 24 hours a day. So you wanted to make sure that like you had an offering in the morning, an offering in the afternoon, and an offering at the end of the day after work. And I think it's sort of just like traveled into my mindset for CPG.
I'm thinking now about people listening that don't know where to start with partnerships. Maybe you don't have a marketing manager, head of marketing, probably don't have a head of partnerships in that case either. If you don't know where to start, look for brands that launched around the same time as you, because neither of you have anything to lose. All you got is time. I mean that. And they'll turn into some of your best friendships. And it doesn't even matter if the products play well together. Just share time, costs, co-work together. Next from that is find brands in your dream retailers. If you're coming out of your first year or year and a half, you're ready to go into retail, prioritize partnering with brands that are on the shelf in the places you want to be in 6 to 12 months. I promise you it's going to help you launch in those stores, because if you partner with them now, you cross-promote, you do those email campaigns, the content, not a product partnership, just content online or events. Over time, over those next several months, you're going to be bringing over people that shop at the Whole Foods and the Target and the Fresh Market. It's going to be much easier than launching in those retailers cold turkey and trying to get people to notice you at the same time that you're launching.
Right.
And then you can do those demos and all the other fun retail partnerships. But I wouldn't start with a flavor partnership unless you have the cash in the scenario of margin awareness or cash.
Right. Yep.
So
MAC, we'll call it.
It's unlikely. Yeah, I like that. But you could do a flavor partnership early if you're not producing the core of the product. If you're taking your flavor or something special about your brand and putting it into other people's products, and they're buying it like an ingredient, like the Yes Apple scenario or the Yuzuko juice, then you can absolutely do product partnerships in your first couple of years, because it plays well in so many different things. And sometimes ingredient partnerships will be on the label. Sometimes they won't. If you make pretzels, you could be the pretzel in a snack pack with someone else. You almost become a private labeler. And if that helps you pay the bills, I think that's awesome.
Totally. Well, so speaking about that, another thing that happened recently with us is that we partnered with Hero Bread, and they're a big business, which I didn't even realize quite what a big business they are. And they have a big e-com piece of their business, not just retail distribution. And, we basically positioned ourselves as a gift with purchase. We really want to get the aioli out there. This is a consumer that cares about, net carbs, and they want better for you bread, but they do want delicious bread. So it felt like a good idea to both of us. They were able, because they have such like deep e-com chops, to set us up as a gift with purchase. And they saw such a good lift and so much sort of engagement from their community that now we're likely going to be sort of sold as a product on their site as sort of an incremental basket builder, add to cart, just for real. Which again, now we have another wholesale, partner which is really cool. That came out of a partnership because we were looking around and we saw a brand that would probably have a Venn diagram with an overlap of a community that overlapped with ours. And, we don't have our own e-com. I think we've talked about this on the podcast. Like, we are only going through Amazon because I just wanted to choose one or the other for now, and we chose Amazon. So it's kind of a win-win-win. These things can lead to other things, and they're a much bigger business than we are.
And that's a perfect example of something else that's in someone's basket. And they're buying probably a loaf or two of bread every time they go to the store, if they're ordering it online, if it's more specialty. And that their product is also something you can eat at breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Right.
And they have to remain exciting to their customers too. Otherwise, that bread's going to stay in the freezer and someone's going to forget about it.
Yep. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, which I didn't really know about until the aioli was fair, one of the things that we've been doing is, Jing, for example, we have a mailing list of, 1,100, 1,200, retailers, not to say that they're all customers yet, but that's our list. They have a big list too, probably a much bigger list than we do. But we've partnered on a really beautiful salmon dish that uses both, our sunshine chili and their crunch. And, we just spent a day, took some photos, wrote the recipe out, and we're not even doing anything other than each of us are sending emails saying, okay, to retailers, look at this recipe you can make. Here are both products.
Oh.
That's it. It's literally just introducing us to their retailers, us introducing, to the extent that our retailers don't know about, I can't imagine that none of our retailers know about Jing, but just in case. But again, it's just like tweaking these ideas like, oh, these two would look good together on my shelf, or, oh, I can take this and feature it in whatever it is that I'm now giving to my consumers. I think there's something that people underestimate about the inspiration piece of all of this. And like I said, it's not costing any of us anything. Again, if you don't have your own, like I happen to make the recipes and Ashley's great at taking photos of them, but it's not an expensive thing to do. And it can really lead to sort of like aligning yourself with like-minded brands, like you said. And I think inching people along to think about your product maybe in a different way than they had when they just got something from you.
Yes. And again, that trust piece. Both of your brands are chef-led, so people are going to trust it even more. But if you can see that this other brand has a stamp of approval from one brand that you like, people might be more likely to go and try the product versus seeing an ad or seeing someone wear the merch. They're also seeing how to eat it, and ideally they get hungry. As a side note, I wish more retailers had curated end caps of products that play well together. It's totally slept on. Also, in their social and email newsletters, I'm sure brands would pay for it as an ad. That's probably the best ROI a brand would ever get. Totally. If it's an email going directly to the customers in that zip code of the stores that you're launching in, and the tech exists. It takes time.
I think it's easier maybe online than it is on an end cap, or even, one of the things we're doing is now we're kind of similar to the demo thing. Like I don't know what the word would be, like we're co-buying, I guess, clickable recipes on Instacart. They're, they're retailer agnostic, but we are splitting the cost of co-branded, videos with, I think we're doing a Somos one with their rice and our, aioli. Like there's all these things to do that actually don't cost you, but maybe a little bit of time and a little bit of creativity, but actually end up being, cost savings. I totally agree about the grocery stores. It's something that, I think comes down to just physical labor and communication between different categories and inventory,
Right.
all that.
It's complicated. But the more you can get in front of shoppers in the same store. I had some friends last year split the cost of an Instagram ad for their brands. And if a customer lead filled out this quick form with their address and their phone number and email, they got a coupon booklet in the mail. So it didn't cost them anything. Didn't cost the customers anything to get. I think it cost each brand a couple $100 for 1,000 leads.
Right.
People that actually shop at that store. On the topic of sharing costs quickly, I want to say going into the partnership mindset on the back half of the year and early next year, you can think about who could I partner with? What could I partner on? What do I have to add value, or what's my budget? Or you can look at what's on your plate. What are you launching in the next 6 or 9 months? And how can you reduce cost, de-risk it, and increase the awareness for it by partnering with other people on it? Whether it's a holiday pop-up event, whether it's a limited edition flavor that you've been working months on, partner with a creator on it. Have it as an exclusive on TikTok Shop. There's so many things you can do now to make that product launch as successful as possible by having 1 or 2 collaborators on it.
Yeah, I love it. You're giving me an idea. I've wanted to make this like condiment lovers holiday box for like forever. Like people who love condiments. Like they love all condiments and they like combining condiments. But, like you were talking about, it's hard on the 3PLs and the pick and packs. And are we buying inventory? Are we getting it on consignment? Who's organizing it? Who's putting it together? So I want to do something virtual, but maybe we can do some like a party, like a condiment con, something like that, where, because, the great news for us is we really aren't in competition with each other because there are so many different ways that people use them. But I don't know. What do you think? You want to help me organize that?
I would love to. And I think we could get empty advent calendars and someone pays to enter the event. They walk around and fill it up, but you can only get what fits in there.
Perfect. Done. All right. We have a few more minutes and I want to hear, I just want you to like leave it all out on the field, things that you feel like, I think I've heard you say like emerging brands, don't be precious, look around, partner, but are there other opportunities that you see that we're leaving on the table, or anything that you really want to like drive home to people, whether they're running brands or they're running marketing for the brands?
I would say whatever you do, do it with intention, because people can sniff it out. Customers, other brands, even journalists, if they get that pitch in their inbox and there's no story, it's just another flavor. It's not gonna get people excited. You want people texting their friends to buy this before it sells out. Like the Truff Hidden Valley Ranch. I'm so mad that I didn't get a bottle of it. I still think about it.
Cool.
And I could probably make it at home. It's 2 products that I love, but like you want people to fall in love with it to the point that it sells out. So again, don't say yes to everything. Don't say no to everything, but like find your sweet spot and then replicate it. And make it easier on your team every time. If you're finding that your team is working on nights and weekends and overspending on these partnerships, it's not going to be worth it. So again, be really intentional with what you're doing, and think about your customer as the most important stakeholder, because most of these partnerships don't make it to retail.
Right. And what would you say to brands that have turned down smaller brands or just have decided that they only play up? It's like, I'm only going to play with a tennis player who's going to up my game. I'm not going to, like, what would you say to them?
I would say you were their size once. Don't forget. And think about other ways that you can support those those brands if you have that kind of heart. So it could be giving them a shout out on your stories. That's the lowest lift thing you can do. Once a week saying, here's an emerging brand that we think you love, and do a founder spotlight. I remember Glossier Cosmetics, I think they have a grant program for emerging beauty brands. You could just mentor them.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if you are the smaller brand in this scenario, obviously your goal is to make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to you. What are some of the things, that you can, as a smaller brand, sort of say, okay, here's what's in it for you, bigger brand, like, do this thing with us. What can we bring to the table for them?
Yeah, you might bring a different younger audience. You might bring just a different pizzazz. I remember for April Fools, I did this wild thing in 48 hours where I cataloged a couple hundred partnerships, calling it the April Fools Innovation Index. And one that really stood out to me was Smart Sweets Candy partnered with a new brand called Hot Girl Pickles. Uh-huh. And imagine a brand as big as Smart Sweets partnering with one that launched this year. I was so happy to see it. It's two women-owned brands coming together. They have nothing to do with each other, but it was a pickle gummy, and people loved it. It didn't exist. It was a right. Fake product, but that's a form of content. Mm-hmm. And it's indirectly could be a form of mentorship. If you're getting a lot of requests from these younger brands, or maybe just the founders or marketers or friends, and like, what can we do together? Well, our budget's spent and our supply chain is complex. We can't do a flavor partnership. You're thinking of like all the things you can't do. Do something fun that just delight people. And that's going to get totally different attention than a recipe or, just something that people are going to gloss over. So I loved that as an example of brands in two totally different sizes that isn't quite a corporation. They're private equity owned on the Smart Sweet side, where hopefully the pickle brand got some exposure from it that led to sales.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, anything else you want to just say before I say thank you? Because I feel like you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I want to make sure I asked you everything.
Just that I wish that there was a way to get on the list for all these partnerships. I would pay. Someone wants to start it.
You're going to start it. That's going to be your next business.
I think people would dig it. To always be on the VIP list for these drops.
I love it. Someone's going to hear this and do that. Amrit, thank you as always. Not just for the conversation, but for everything you do. You always, just every time I see you, you're like, and what about these guys? And what about those guys? And it's funny because after our last coffee, we were talking about picnics, and, I'm like, the aiolis are lightweight and you can throw them in a bag and you don't have to bang the jar against the sand if you're at the, beach. And then, you were kind of throwing out ideas of other brands, but then we went back to our Instacart ads and just our Instacart kind of keywords. And I was like, can we just do beach towels also, and picnic baskets and, picnic blankets? And some of it we get dinged for irrelevancy, but some of it we don't. It also just opened up ideas for me in other ways beyond what we were talking about, as you always do. So thank you for everything, as always.
Thank you too. And I hope you know that people love your podcast. They love your content, and we appreciate you.
Aw, thanks. And Liam, my podcast and my content would not be possible without you and Heritage Radio Network. I don't really do much other than ask the questions and bring the guests on. You and Heritage do everything else. And I always tell people this, but Heritage is a nonprofit radio network that just wants to support good food systems in general. And so I'm really proud to be partnered with them. We don't monetize this in any way. It's just really in service of the CPG community. So something I'm proud of. And on that note, I'll be back next week with another episode of In the Sauce. In the Sauce is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.